What are mans? It's Taco Mans. Today I'll be talking about the portable titanium hot tent stove made by Danchel Outdoor. I'll be going over some specs, assembly, and installation. I'll also explain my main uses for it and give my review. Let's talk about it. This portable stove comes in a zippered carry case and has an overall weight of 6.6 pounds. The case measures 16.9 inches by 12.6 inches. Inside the case we have all the components, starting with the chimney and all its parts, which I'll cover in a second. It also comes with a poker stick, and the stove itself, which is secured with two Velcro straps. The top cover is a separate piece. To assemble the stove, I'll simply unfold the two legs, flip it over, and unfold the four side walls. Then I rotate four clips to go around the corresponding tabs, which will hold it all together. As you can see, mine's been used many times. I've owned this stove for over 2 years. It's developed a beautiful blue and purple patina and has warped over time, but it still functions and works as needed. I attach the top portion over the sidewalls and orient the chimney hole towards the back of the stove opposite the front door. 4 more clips, 2 on each side, and the stove is assembled. The door opens and you can see the vent located below the window. The stove also has a large window on the side, which is great for letting out heat. Moving on to the chimney parts, there's a rotating damper which slots right into the cutout on the stove. There are 6 rings to keep the chimney together, 1 clamp ring, a spark arrestor to limit embers from coming out of the chimney, and the chimney pole itself. To assemble the chimney, the best technique is to roll it diagonally since it's really difficult to roll it in a chimney shape right away, especially if it's brand new. Once I get this diagonal shape going, I start slipping on all the rings. It's highly recommended to wear gloves since the sheet metal is really sharp. From this point, I just have to work with the sheet metal, taking my time to roll it into shape and distributing the rings along the length of the chimney. Once I get it to this point, I patiently untwist the chimney until it's no longer diagonal and it'll pop into shape. Then I slide the rings once more to evenly space them out. Next, I install the chimney into the stove jack of my hot tent, carefully assisting the rings through so they don't get caught on the stove jack. At this point, I install the spark arrestor. Once I've pushed the chimney through enough, I move on to the bottom portion. I start by installing the clamp and slide it up high. Then, with the damper placed on the stove, I open the bottom of the chimney so I can fit it over the damper. Once I have it in place, I wiggle the clamp towards the bottom to secure the chimney to the damper, then tighten the clamp. The damper is secured to the stove using tabs and slots. A couple more adjustments here and there, and the stove and chimney assembly is complete. The stove measures 11.3 inches tall, 15.1 inches long, and 8.7 inches wide, and the chimney is 7.2 feet tall. We're just about ready to start the fire, but we need to do one important thing: process wood. Now that that's done, to start a fire, I use a combination of homemade fire starter and birch bark. I use a lean-to formation and minimal wood to prevent clogging up the airflow. Slowly feeding the stove, once there's a decent coal bed, most pieces of wood will eventually catch fire even if it's a little damp. Sometimes I dry the wood on top of the stove if they're too damp. The stove is great for heating up the hot tent. On a recent trip, using an 8-person hot tent in minus 25 degrees Celsius or minus 13 Fahrenheit, we were able to reach temperatures of plus 15 degrees Celsius or 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I've used this in smaller hot tents too. While I didn't have a thermometer, I've gotten to the point of needing to remove my jacket and hat from feeling too hot. Aside from heating up the tent, the stove is also great for cooking or heating up food. I usually heat up sandwiches or wraps using foil or a grill top. There's nothing like a toasted sandwich in the middle of winter camping. My favorite use is boiling water. It's such a great way to save on using gas cans. I almost always have a pot of water steadily boiling. I even got to test out this water tank from Winterwell that my friend brought on a recent trip. It's not designed for this stove, but we made it work. It was awesome to have hot water on tap. Talk about maximum luxury. So I really love this stove, but if I were to nitpick some cons, I would say 1, it's low to the ground. I find it easier to operate when I'm sitting or laying on the ground as opposed to a camp chair. But seeing as hot air rises, and we usually sleep at ground level, this is probably by design. The second issue I've had in really cold temperatures is the spark arrestor frosting and clogging from some type of mixture of ice and soot, usually after a night of heavy use. I'm still figuring out how to avoid this, but I just take a stick to clear the holes in the spark arrestor and it works great again. Maybe I should just chalk it up to wood stove maintenance as opposed to an actual con. Overall, I absolutely love this stove. It's priced quite reasonably compared to others in the market. It's also very lightweight and fits into my winter camp sled no problem. There's something about having a heated tent in the dead of winter that you can't really understand until you've experienced it. So tell me, have you winter camped with a wood stove? What kind have you used and why? Let me know in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, and vibe. I'll catch you on the next. Taco Man's out. Peace.
But baby